Hey everybody, and it's Emily Leach. I am back. So we're talking with one of our speakers today, actually one of our keynote speakers today, for this year's Freelance conference. So Ann Fish has decided to give us some of her time. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Glad to be here with you.
And we have to give her an extra special thank you because I just found out that she may have a couple of cracked ribs, and so we appreciate that she's here. She's smiling, and I'm sorry, we can't make her laugh though. So don't ask me any questions that are going to make her laugh either. But it is an extra special thank you, because I would have understood if you said, man, I need a day or two. So thank you. So real quick, I want to dive into, to me, this is super, super interesting. And that you have, out of all the places in the country, you have decided to live in Wyoming. I get that it's beautiful, but it is also cold. So tell us a little bit about that decision.
Well, Jackson, Wyoming is absolutely incredibly beautiful. But the decision came because of a family member who lived here, two family members. And at the time I was living in London, my favorite uncle and my grandmother were living in Jackson. And I decided to buy property here because I had lived all over the world and did not have real estate interest anywhere. And I thought, this is my retirement. So my retirement home is here because in 1998, I bought my first condo here.
Oh, wow.
So that's what brought me to this family.
And so, yeah, so when we talk about being able to select from anywhere in the world, it really, really applies to you because you've spent, your career before what you're doing now as an airline attendant. And so you've seen it all, kind of.
I've traveled quite a bit. And before the airlines, I lived in Spain and Mexico, and I lived in Italy. That was kind of without the airlines. But yeah, so I've traveled to 42 countries as of my last count.
Wow. Yeah, I'm behind you just a little bit.
Oh, most people are. It's okay.
Yeah, I don't know, 35, 38 countries, I think, or something like that. So from that, I mean, you learned some kind of interesting stories if, going back to some of the conversations that we've had in the past and about how you decided to leave doing that, whether it was just that time in your life and instead of just retiring, you kind of said, you know what, I've learned some lessons and I want to teach people. Mm-hmm. So talk to us a little bit about what you learned and, what you decided to do with that.
Well, the biggest lesson, and all of my friends kept saying to me, how is it that you just jump and you always land on your feet? And so the lessons that I learned of taking a risk or taking a leap of faith, I started studying with other people who had been really successful in taking risks. And that's kind of how I decided to go forward with writing my book, Risk Formation. That's how I decided to, when I retired from the airlines, to go into the speaking. And I had done sales training 25 years ago when I lived in Mexico. So that part came easily for me. The speaking I really enjoy. But now it's just taken this different path, which is really exciting. Not only to speak to entrepreneurs and freelancers, but now I spoke to the women's prison in Idaho a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
really, really, for me, this is what it's all about, is giving back. So I've been able to really experience life and live overseas, but now to give back, that's kind of how it morphed into what it is today.
All right. So my impression, and I could be wrong, but I think that I'm at least relatively correct in that a lot of people that are airline attendants kind of tend to play it a little bit safe. I mean, my impression is that they don't take a lot of jumps. They don't risk a lot. Is that accurate or?
Well, they do, but in different, they like an adventure that they may take and go to, Thailand or Vietnam by themselves. I mean, they'll take those kinds of risks.
Yeah.
Like anyone, whether it's a flight attendant or a bank teller. Which I did that too. But I think we are all conditioned to kind of play it safe in certain areas of our lives. And for those of us who have taken risks in one area, I think what's happened, and I've learned this just through my research, is that we build self-confidence to take us to the next risk. And so I couldn't say that all flight attendants are risk averse or risk tolerant, or all bank tellers. But I think that we learn through our own, whatever our path, whatever path we choose to take a risk, and then that builds confidence, and then that kind of takes you around the circle, as I call it, around the wheel, as I call it.
Right. So would you say that growing up that you kind of had access to that in your life, so it was, you were sort of shown that path, or do you feel like there was this critical moment that's like, okay, I'm going to do this?
Okay. I have thought about this a lot. So I love to talk to this, because I grew up in Austin, and Austin, back when I was growing up, my elementary school that I went to only went through 6th grade. And so now it goes through 12th. And so I had to change schools and go to a totally new school, not knowing anybody. A lot of you people have traveled, and parents were in the military, for example. You were used to bouncing around. But I think what that does is that trains you that's kind of a risk, but people don't call it that. But it trained me to get out of my comfort zone. And then in high school, I had to do that again. But really, for me, the big change was after college, when I moved to Spain on a one-way plane ticket, because I had really planned on having a different job. And I write about it in my book. Call me James Bond, the female version, but that's what I wanted to do. And so I believe that those changes at 6th to 7th grade and 8th to 9th grade, and going to Camp Grady Spruce near Dallas by myself when nobody from Austin would go there, those small risks kind of led me to take the bigger leap later on in life. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that, because that's what a lot of people say they love about my story, is kind of the same. Oh, not the same, but not the same. I didn't go to another country. I woke up one morning and decided I didn't want to live where I'm living, and I moved to another town because I like the name of it. Yours is far more dramatic, in my personal opinion, but I've never been afraid to jump.
But see, that's key. And I love that. And you can be such a great example to other young women. In my target market, I really speak to a lot of women. Not that men can't get the message, but, and I think to say, this is my point, is to say, it's not about buying a plane ticket to Spain. It doesn't have to be. It could be driving a different way to your children's school. Something small. Because what happens is, I think people compare themselves. You kind of just did, and I don't want that. So I say, I've done this, but it doesn't mean it's the only way to get from A to B. You can get from A to B by moving to a different town because you like the town's name. And I applaud that, because I think that we need to support one another. Those of us who are risk takers or want to become smarter risk takers, we need to support that and help one another.
So now at the conference, you're going to talk about, hey, if this was easy, everybody would do it, and why it's, especially as freelancers, right? That's what the freelance conference is all about.
Right.
What are the assets? What are the gifts that come out of being willing to take that jump and go through, some of the heartache that happens in the path and the journey?
Absolutely. Well, okay. So I love that you're starting with the benefits, because I like to focus on the positive too. So the benefits, I think being your own boss is kind of one of the obvious benefits. Yes. And learning builds self-confidence. And let me tell you, this is also kind of one of the not easy parts. The learning curve in being a freelancer is tremendous. I'm learning this live with you right now. And it was, but guess what this does? This builds my self-confidence. So, but learning builds self-confidence. So that's another benefit. Being your own boss, learning. You can focus on what you're interested in. If you're interested in freelancers, you can be Emily Leach and start the freelance conference. If you are interested in recycling, you could start some program to help recycling efforts around the country. This is what I love about freelancing, is you can photography, writing, whatever your passion is, you can really focus on that. And you don't have to focus only on one passion, because I have kind of a hard time with people saying, find your one passion. And I'm like, man, I've got a lot of passions. I enjoy a lot of different things.
I know. And you can take one passion and dive into it, and that could lead you to a passion that you didn't know anything about. Because I don't know about you, but when I graduated high school, I don't remember there being any talking about freelancing.
No, not at all. But the nice thing is and the last point that I always talk to people about is to be kind of ahead of the curve. So one of the benefits of being a freelancer is you can be ahead of the curve. And I know you know this, Emily, but those people watching may not know this, that
I agree.
Between 2015 and 2020, the World Economic Forum has estimated that there will be a loss of more than 7 million jobs around the world due to advanced technology and automation. And so to be your own boss, boy, there's a lot of freedom in that, because if you're stuck in that job, whether it's a bank teller, a flight attendant, or a salesperson, I just heard a friend who's 65 lost his job in sales, big company, cut back. So, if you're stuck in that job and dependent on that income, on that medical insurance, on whatever that case, whatever the case may be, then when this comes, you might be totally blindsided. As a freelancer, if you're prepared and you've become your own boss, and you've done these things, you've learned, and you've had to stretch and grow, and it's not always comfortable. And sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. But then that's the benefit. Those are some of the benefits of being a freelancer, being on your own.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everybody still remembers the 2009. The downturn, 2008, 2009 into 2010. And as a freelancer, it affected me, but not the way that people think. I made some of the best money of my career during that time, because I could niche. I could focus in on something that was changing. We talk about AI and all these other changes, but it doesn't mean that, yes, some jobs will be taken away, but we need to stop and look at what's going to be opened up, because, just because those are going away, something still has to be there to make these jobs go away. So it's to me, I don't see it as much as a job going away as it's transitioning into something else. So keep your eyes open. And take a look for that. And keep looking at that and look at what kind of skills can I continue to create and learn and build so that I'm ready for that turn.
That's right. Because those people who are ready and have their plan B will be able to jump. Those people who don't, and I go back to when I left a major U.S. carrier.
There you go. Well done.
I go back to that day in 2012 because I had been working on my plan B. And I was kind of prepared. And when they offered us an early buyout, early retirement, I was able to raise my hand and said, pick me. But some of my friends said, oh, well, I'm not even sure, not sure I can. And that's a shame. Or they haven't done the research. And one of my big steps in the risk formula for my book is investigation. Because if you know how much your health insurance, for example, will cost once you leave that safe job, that secure place, then it's not as scary. But there's a lot of, I think people are caught with, well, I hear it's going to be this or that. And you have to know, you have to do your research, investigate.
Yeah, so. You really do. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. So if you could give the audience today one or two things that you feel confident they would walk away with from your keynote talk here in 3 weeks? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, 3 weeks. Yes.
What would you say those are?
I would say it would be encouragement to, even though it isn't easy, to take the leap, to take that jump and to see the benefits. I would say another takeaway would be some self-confidence that they will gain by doing what they do every day, but sometimes they don't realize that what they're accomplishing. And then lastly, to give them the courage to balance so many different projects, because as freelancers, sometimes you don't just work on one project for 90 days. You may be writing a speech over here, you may be doing a photo shoot over here, and you've got to balance. So another takeaway would be to understand how to balance those activities. And so those, I think that's what they can hope to hear from me.
You know what I wish we could do right now, had I thought this through? Not that you're in Austin right now anyway. It would have been really awesome to do this interview on like the side of, sort of a cliff, even if it's a short cliff. And then at the end of it, have us videotaped jumping off into the water.
There you go.
That would have been so much fun.
On a day when I wouldn't have just potentially hurt myself doing Dancing with the Stars moves. We could have videotaped it before I got to this interview, and you could have seen my partner lifting me up into the cliff that I'm going to have to do on stage in front of 1,000 people. That's risky, but
so when is that?
That is at the end of October, raising money for the Children's Learning Center in Jackson Hole. So.
Well, we will have to keep in touch and kind of spread the news about that. That sounds really interesting.
That's great. Well, thank you very much.
So
I'm excited to come to Austin. 3 weeks.
We're excited to have you. We really, really are. So again, this is Emily Leach, and I want to thank so much Ann Fish for giving us some of her time today and educating us on a little bit more on some of the great, amazing benefits of freelancing, but some of the things that you need to have in place, and learning self-confidence if you don't have it, and the things that we can do to build self-confidence. So if you've been on the fence and thinking about coming to the Freelance Conference, there are still some tickets available. We had a really good run last week on ticket sales, but there are still some there. So going out to freelanceconference.com and go ahead and grab your ticket. We are, like I said, right at 3 weeks from today, we will be setting up the space. And I woke up this morning with that realization, and you can't see them, but I have whiteboards in front of me full of all the things, just making sure I get everything checked off, and we have everything in place. So again, run out, grab your ticket, and come out. Your ticket includes pretty much everything except for your travel, of course, if you're coming in from out of town. And until then, have a fantastic day and enjoy freelancing. I will talk to you soon. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you, Emily.